Good morning, everybody. Happy Memorial Weekend. Some gave a little, some gave it all. Something, some gave a little bit, all of it. Something like that. There's that thing. What is it? Memorial Weekend Day. Some gave all. Okay, here we go. Let me read that. All gave some gave all, gone but never forgotten. Okay. All right, so I don't want to mess that up. But yeah, so happy Memorial Weekend. Yeah, the last day or so, I haven't really felt the aggressiveness too much today. I mean, I got up early this morning and like really early and released the demons, drank a bunch of coffee, hung out with my husband. We were listening to music together. I mean, it's nice. I think now that he's reading my stuff and he's realizing that I'm not speaking some crazy shit here. There's a lot of stuff going on that unless you pay attention to your body, mind, and spirit, you won't know because you're under the influence. And, you know, my husband really isn't under the influence. He feels everything. And so he knows what's going on. And I'm giving him clues on how to deal with pain, drink milk, eat food, you know, and sometimes he has to poop several times in the morning or a day. And that's good. And I cough, sneeze, and blow my nose because that's how I open up the portals in my alimentary canal. So early in the morning when I'm awake and I know that I have stuff that I've been exposed to because our environment is extremely active, aggressive. My husband comes home, he brings home his energy and he has things that he wants to share with me, whether it's speaking or his microbes, which is not a bad thing. And I eat food wherever. I mean, we had pizza last night. And so I know my immune system is so efficient that it'll process information and distribute it, assimilate, and then save the waste for the body to then eventually push it out. And so at 4 o'clock, 3 o'clock in the morning, I'll be blowing my nose. And I'll blow on one side really hard, really hard, really hard, and blow on the other side really hard, really hard, really hard. And sometimes, you know, the poop can be really hard. And so you really got to get it out. And then when I drink the coffee and the cream with the actual whipped cream and a lot of like the espresso, then that helps the rest of the stuff in the intestines and the colon as I'm blowing my nose and sneezing too, push stuff out. So I could probably poop several times in the morning because it's just one of those things that, you know, you initially get stuff out and then later on that morning, then you get the rest of the stuff out. And so obviously if people have busy schedules during the week and they have to be on point and they don't have time to go through that process, they'll eat their food, do whatever. And on the weekends, they are pushing out all the week's stresses, microbes they've been exposed to, and even you could be bringing up predisposed issues. And predisposed issues could happen at any point because when the body's finally allowed to be opened up and it's being fed all the meat, milk, cheese, eggs, fruits, vegetables, but mostly meat, milk, and sugar and gluten, all that, then it's going to produce life. Body's going to want to release, and there isn't a set schedule when that's going to happen. And obviously, if you have predisposed issues in whatever systems and organs, you will have to deal with it and not be scared. Or if you want to be scared and think you're going to die from it, then yeah, you'll have to go see a doctor to figure out how you can transition on the food supply, deal with the demons, and release them, and also rebuild your body. And so what was really awesome yesterday was when I was going through my newsfeed and I was scrolling and I saw that, I don't know if it's I forget which doctor, but they overcame a nut allergy because they were introducing nuts in the girl's immune system, in her food, a little bit at a time. So then she would develop mucus, probably some inflammation. They wouldn't treat it, but they would allow it to happen little by little. And so she'd be introduced to nuts daily. and she would have symptoms and they wouldn't stop it. And so she overcame that nut allergy because she brought up those symptoms. Now, here's the thing. That's just a nut allergy. There's probably going to be so many other allergies and issues in that girl's genetic line that's just one out of probably 100 issues that could potentially come up. And so what they did with that nut allergy was just scratching the surface. But that's going to set the tone for every other allergy that people have, and diseases and cancers. That's going to be the start, is when someone can overcome a food allergy just simply by introducing them to the food that caused major anaphylaxis. Okay, why was it major anaphylaxis? Because it was a vast amount of that specific protein the body had a defense system against. And so how do you then overcome that? You have to introduce those things that cause so much reaction in small amounts. And that's what the V's were intended. But as you can see, nothing is universal, and people are at different levels of senescence, deterioration. And so what would be a mild thing for one person could be a major thing for another person. And that's where all the confusion around the therapies when it comes to the V's come from, because we have such a diverse population who are at really aggressive and different levels of senescence. And so, and that's why people are making correlation equals causation, and not understanding where people are coming from, why their fears are where they are. And then this is where you have to be the one to understand what symptoms are, what they're meant for, and not develop another allergy trying to combat them with other herbs and extracts and prescription drugs. And so, human experimentation with babies and families who are specific cultures and are studied, and data is collected. That data gets funneled into a database, and then this is how pathologies are discovered and how to deal with diagnosable conditions and or mental issues. So literally every single family is an experiment all over the world, but especially in America. And probably in the UK and in other first world countries. And so all of us, every single one of our families is a culture that is studied. And of course, it's also taking into account and factoring in the economy, the culture, the backdrop of the location, the lifestyle, belief systems, politics, religion, and science. Every single education level, every factor that makes up your life is brought into play when they are studying your genes. And you can go to the hospital one time, you can go to the hospital thousands of times. They have your DNA. And all of that is being recorded. And it's in a database somewhere. And so that's why you got to realize that you are programmed. Not only are you an experiment, but you are programmed. And so the whole J world is saying, okay, you're around 7.9 billion people when you think about it, because everyone's trading DNA all over the place. So they have their prototypes they want. And there's always new ones, I don't say new ones, but other conglomerations, which we're seeing now. Kids are coming up pretty fast in our society, so they're like a new prototype of little geniuses. But it's you now have the choice to release all of that confusion that's in your body. You have the choice to release that and let all the gifts that were given to you, even in your small homogenized little worlds that you live in, you can allow all the gifts that were given to you to finally come to surface and release all the demons when you think about it. But you got to realize that your politics, your religion, I don't care what it is, and your science dogmas were programmed into you. It's irrelevant if it was a belief system that was developed back 6,000 years ago, or 200, or just yesterday because you've read something on the internet and now you're a believer in whatever it is. Okay? And so you got to realize, so you just now take in all the information, find the connections and the patterns, understand that some people are extremists in that, and they will never, ever get out of their extremist ways, their extremist belief systems. And so you just leave them the fuck alone. You can read their stuff and they'll trigger you because they will talk to you in their different ways, just like I do. I talk to people without actually talking to them. And that's a great way to get it out and talk to people without confronting them and saying they're bad or wrong. And so when you see someone talking to you, okay, why are they talking to you? Because you know how they feel about anyone challenging their whole way of life, family, religion, all of that, kids. So they're going to say stuff that's going to be like as if they were being confronted by you personally, and then they're shooting back at you with their responses as if they were in conversation. And you'll see that. And then you don't block and delete because they're not crossing boundaries, but you can unfollow because you know that that will be like a subconscious war. Okay? And so that's why, I say, if you don't like what I'm saying, there's no reason to defend yourself and unfollow me. You can watch my stuff every so often. Maybe certain things come through, but maybe if you have to unfollow me, then why are we friends? Because we're all data to each other. We're all relevant in some way, just whether or not we want to face the stuff that we're not liking. But but why wouldn't you face it? Because maybe it's tearing down what you think your life is. Just like me, I don't want to face or follow people that are responding to me indirectly because somebody else like me triggered them in some level. So it's like you just protect your energy, whatever it is, and you protect your culture. And if you think your culture, whatever, whether it dies, in 20 years, 30 years, or 50 years, and you're okay with that, great. If you want to bypass that death process and not die from natural causes, then you'll check out my information and see if it's relevant for you, if you even can make any changes, because you may not be. You may like my information, but you really don't have what it takes to physically follow the information. Okay? And so yeah. Let me get to this. Did I change that? Oh, yeah. I should have posted all the way down here, but that's okay. Okay. So I was going to talk about the giants. I'll do that later about the giants. But yeah, so human experiments. So then you know that there are people out there, like I've seen on my news feed, someone's feeling like they're in hell. Like they feel the pain, they feel the nausea, they feel whatever they feel. And so they have to turn to their prescription drugs. They have to turn to their herbs and extracts. Let's say oregano oil or any other essential oils or anything that is offered in the health and wellness world. Okay, in the health food shops, holistic shops. Okay, they're going to take their tinctures, and you can't stop them. Let them destroy themselves. But here's the thing, when it comes to when people take tinctures, and even the V's, they're going to be releasing demons. You're going to catch those demons. You're going to catch those antibodies that their body is releasing, developing a defense against that specific protein that is attached to an antibiotic. You have a primary defense system if you have an adaptable immune system with balanced fatty acid, amino acid, prohormones, and minerals. Okay? And you're supposed to develop defense against that person's defense system that you caught. But if you have a closed immune system, you're going to catch somebody's oregano oil or Cipro or Prozac antibody. It's going to metastasize in your body, cause then an allergy, an infection, and allergies. So when you're around people who have those specific proteins they're releasing into the system, or you're eating foods or taking medication that houses those types of proteins, then people get allergic reactions or they get food allergies. And so your simple exposure to someone who is on all the herbs and extracts and pills, powders, and supplements and prescription drugs, you're taking on their defenses. You're taking on those allergies, and then it's metastasizing in you, causing then the diseases in you. And so this is why if you have an immune system and you know how to respond to it without developing another allergy, then what somebody does in their world, whether it's a V or it's a tincture or a prescription drug, it won't affect you because you release those demons. It will only affect you when you have a closed immune system and you're breathing in all of their waste material, what they are releasing out of their body. Coughing, sneezing, blowing their nose, even talking to you, spitting on you. You pick up some, DNA on the counter when you're at Starbucks or something. You will pick up some people's defense systems all over the place, and then you're supposed to know how to respond to it without developing more diseases and pathologies and allergies, but people don't because they don't want to feel stuff. And so what do? They take remedies, they take prescription drugs to stop the body's release process. And so they have so much diversity in their body, then it's all confused. And of course, there is different sexual orientations, which are fine, okay, whatever. But there's also diseases that are attached to that. Diseases means that the body is developing a defense against something that is attacking them within, but the body isn't allowed to release it. And so everyone's at war with each other inside. And that's no different than you're in a closed society where there is a barricade all around like your specific town. And then you allow the Crips and the Bloods with all their guns to go hang out together. And they got to go and fight to the death, and no one is allowed out. That's exactly what goes on in a closed immune system, is that you have all these generations and different microbes from everyone around you and all their pills, power supplements, and detoxes and prescription drugs. And it's all just, they're all fighting to the death, trying to be king of the mountain. And that's now with this climate change, because it's getting hotter, causing more bloom. Then that's what also is coming out in people coming unglued. They're being tortured by those demons inside, the things that they're not allowed to release because they were never told they should release it. And they were given too many medications to stop the body from releasing. So they're being tortured by that. They're getting fast-moving cancers, fast-moving diseases, chronic illnesses, autoimmune disorders. They're angry, like literally really angry. And it'll just take a thing to trigger them. Frequencies they're going to be so sensitive to frequencies, whether it's music or even the heat or someone looking at them the wrong way or looking a specific way. And you could be just simply walking down the street and you can trigger somebody if they find that you are, accessible and there isn't anyone else around to stop the situation. And or people's sexual predation comes out. And if you are found alone somewhere where you shouldn't be, and there's no one to stop them from doing something, people do shit because they have so much of the torture shit inside. And so you must have an amazing, efficient release process so someone's natural herb prescription meta remedies don't cause food allergies and disease in you, and that can include mental illness. Don't let other people's intolerances affect you, okay? And that includes then when they're taking all the turmeric and honey and apple cider vinegar, all the foods as medicine. And you see that over there in some of the worlds of spicy food. And they're using that as medicine, especially turmeric and curries and all of that. And they're using it against the body's defense system. And then you breathe in all their antibodies. You need to be able to release it. If not, then when you have that metastasized and then now you have an allergy against, certain foods, that's how people pass on disease to each other because of how they react to their own body's immune system trying to release. And so, taking steroids and using steroid creams and even doing the J juice topically or even internally on a continuous basis, you're trapping those demons inside because the pain and the mucus and the rashes and all the feelings of whatever is the body trying to release, whether it's even, trauma from what people said to you, what you went through 20 years ago that was buried under alcohol and drugs and other experiences so you can get through it, get over it. All of that's going to come out. So it's not just, the rashes and blisters and open wounds and headaches, but it also could be crying. You could also be just something triggered you. Someone said something and they just trigger you and you're crying and you're feeling depressed and you're feeling forlorn or you're feeling angry or you're feeling, craving something. And that's the body trying to feed itself, but also trying to also release demons. And people mischaracterize that. And it's also like spiritual, because then the church and all the star seeds and all the people who are in the energy healing world have then characterized it and hijacked your feelings of release and turned it into a business, of which then they go and manipulate your chakras, give you some kind of meditation or yoga pose, or telling you to do an exercise regime. I mean, the holistic world and the energy healing world have capitalized on people's mischaracterization of their body naturally releasing trauma that was done to them because of all the experimentation for hundreds and hundreds of years. And so you have an immune system. If you have an adaptable balance of fatty acid, amino acid, prohormones, use it. Okay, and minerals. I left that one out. Use it. But if you are not aware of what your immune system does to function, you will stop the feelings of hell with herbs instead of conditioning your alimentary canal to cough, sneeze, and blow your nose. And so when you're getting over a nut allergy, like that doctor who's overseeing that young girl and telling the mother, introduce the nuts in small amounts, slowly, daily. And the doctor's overseeing that process and is monitoring the reactions. If she's getting slight reactions, that's a good thing. The body's releasing and assimilating. And the doctor is watching that situation. That's when you need to ask your doctor to help you assimilate to the food supply. But some doctors are like, nah, I'm not doing that. Some doctors are like, they don't want to be, they don't get paid enough to do that. And so they're just going to give you a prescription drug or an operation, or be like, well, I'm not, I'm not a specialist. I'll have you go see a specialist. Maybe they give you a specialist and maybe they're not even trained in that. So I don't know how that method of introducing small nuts on a daily basis, how prevalent that is. But that was one article I've seen that they didn't use anything out there as far as, any vaccines or something to deal with nut allergies, but they were actually introducing the actual protein, the nuts, into that girl's food supply. So then she feels slight stuff, and then finally she's able to deal with nuts, and she won't go into anaphylaxis. Okay? And so, yeah, coughing and sneezing and blowing your nose, and I'll tell you, when you get advanced in the J world, you will literally have to pull out some of that crap. Because I'll tell you, the way these frequencies have been like yesterday, especially early in the morning, I can tell when half the day my body is not going through that, like that heartbeat, that major energetic response. It's like when my poop comes out, half it's really, really hard, like it's just feeling like Play-Doh, like hard clay, and the other half is just like more liquidy and separated. And so I know that if we were under extreme amounts of energy on a continuous basis and we're eating, we would be developing really hard fucking shits in our body, and that would really be hard to get out. Not that you couldn't, but that would be a lot to feed. And you also, when you have a higher energetic society that's trying to also cure you, like cure the food that you're eating, like the poop, because your body will go through the processes, but curing means it's like solidifying that waste material. Okay? And so, yeah, that's probably with where all the giants came from when you think about it. Because when you have all that solidified waste material and it's on a continuous basis, would you grow? I don't know. I have to figure out. That's why I put the giants in there. So I got to figure out that. But yeah, half the day, well, I don't say all of them, but there was a certain amount of time in that day where there was just, the frequencies were fucking insane. And what was I doing? I was eating cream. I had pizza last night and chicken. I had the pizza and I had the chicken and I had the cream and the coffee, and I think I had the burritos. I had 2 bean burritos, no rice because I didn't make any rice. And I had the salsa and I ate that in response to all that energy. And I think I probably took a little bit of a nap at some point yesterday, I think. And so, and I was tired. So when I go to sleep at night, it's not like, like it's pretty much clockwork. Around 9:30, 10, I'll start falling asleep. I can actually hear myself snore. Like it'll be the same time every night or the same way I fall asleep. I will hear myself snore. I don't think I've ever at all before this last few months ever really caught myself snoring or starting to snore. And then fall asleep. And so then I'll turn off my Netflix and turn on my YouTube and listen to like NBC Nightly News or something. And fall asleep to that. And then I'll wake up at like 2 or 3. Be wide awake. Like literally wide awake. And so I'm going through and looking at stuff and doing stuff. And then, you know, and then I turn on some other biography to listen to that frequency and fall asleep to that. And then I'll wake up like at 4 or 5. And then I get up and I'm wide awake. It's like either I'm dead asleep, like completely dead to the world for a few hours, wake up completely awake, or asleep, completely dead asleep. It's the weirdest phenomenon in this environment. It's the weirdest phenomenon. So then I wake up at 4 in the morning and get up. My husband and I, we got up today early, both together. He was up at 4 or 5. I was at the same time. We hung out, watched some, like he has XM radio. And so we're listening to 80s, which we haven't before, where he would be like, I don't want to listen to your 80s stuff. And he was always listening to heavy metal, and it would piss me off. And I'm like, I can't listen to heavy metal, like electric heavy metal at this early in the morning. It's like, it's actually, it's destructive. Which is why I do the reels where it's softer music, because it's not destructive. It's just soft. And so we were listening. So he's actually changed the way he's done stuff. It's so weird. And so he actually voluntarily put on some 80s chill. And so we were having a nice conversation back and forth. He was talking about things, memories that he has with some of the music. And I saw memories about music that and it was like, oh my God, it was a new concept for us. Because he never liked my music. Like, oh, I can't listen to that shit. And I'm like, I can't listen to your shit either. And whatever. And so it was, but then this morning, it feels like yesterday. This morning, it was like we just hung out, drank coffee, and listening to music. Then he started listening to Ryan Upchurch. And he likes to listen to Ryan Upchurch and wanted me to watch something. It was Savannah something. A country girl or whatever. A country girl's got to survive or something. And it was just like, it was nice. It was really nice. And so I'll tell you, our relationship has gone through so many hills and valleys and roller coasters, but everything's coming out in the wash and it's nice. He has his stuff that he likes to do. I have my stuff that I like to do. And we have tolerance. Yeah, we come from different worlds. We're very different, but I'm telling you, we found a happy medium. And I'm allowed to express myself and do what I have to do to survive and get shit out and survive. And I'm not ramming the J world or longevity or immortality down his throat. He's going to do what he's going to do. But he understands now, really, when you think about what's going on, because we're all feeling the frequencies. They are obvious now. And he's seen a lot more shit on the road. When he's a truck driver driving down these major thoroughfares and people are acting stupider than usual. Oh, he's seeing how the frequencies are affecting people's driving, where he has to actually get off the road so he doesn't get caught somewhere in something. And so I think he gets it. Thank God. It doesn't mean that he's going to do what I'm doing and pull out the shit and all that. I mean, his body will release, but he'll probably go through the natural, expected aging process because he's a dude. He doesn't want to feel all that crap. He doesn't want to really change. Men aren't as evolutionary as women are. They really aren't. And especially if you're getting a good, return on your investment of being able to perform every day at the same time, and you're getting money for it, and you have hobbies, and you have friends, and you have all of that makes you, and it's like he has no incentive to do any changing. Why should he, right? Until he is knocked down several pegs and he can't do something. That's when people start changing, is when they can't do the things they love. And so he's still capable until he gets knocked down several notches. And that's why women who have dealt with autoimmune disorders, and why women in general in the J world have a lot more. There's a lot more women in the J world that's able to do this because they've been knocked down several pegs because of the evolution that we feel all the time, even after having a baby or all the different, sicknesses that we experience, and we have a higher threshold of pain, but we also know we give a lot more of that stuff, more than men do, but for the most part, then we're able to change because we recognize and we can know that we can survive symptoms. We've been conditioned to deal with pain and suffering, because imagine raising a child and having babies. We've been raised with pain and suffering. So that is also probably a conditioning process, is women being the one that raises the babies for the most part and also has them. And so if men have never really dealt with pain onto that level, then they're really not going to want to change the way they do stuff, because they haven't been conditioned for it, really. They've been conditioned for external pain, not so much internal pain. And so when their guy friends are like, kind of playfully punching them in the arm or doing stupid shit like on the soccer field, the football field, then, that's how they condition to be strong and manly and all that. But when there's shit going on inside, reproduction and whatever else, they're like finding Motrin and Advil to stop the energy, stop the pain. But they've also been conditioned at such an external level to have the muscles and maybe some of the fat, but a lot of the muscles. And so that kind of pain is what is acceptable versus internal organ pain or release pain. So, which is why women are going to probably outlast the men, why the DNA is also changing to be a little bit more feminine, so the men have a chance to condition themselves to stay alive and evolve with these changes. But then there's that whole side of like, oh God, now it's the effeminization of men, but not really. It's giving you an evolutionary gift to see if you can handle evolution, yes, but adaptation and stay alive when you think about it. Okay. And so don't look at it as a sexual orientation, because sexual orientation is something that can be programmed, that you can program yourself. It may be already programmed into you, and you can also program yourself. You can deprogram yourself you can do whatever you want. You just have to understand the programming. And so everything is natural when you understand how to program yourself, your body, your mind, and your spirit, what you feed your mind, what you feed your body, as far as even just the physical kinetic energy. And so body, mind, and spirit, and what you feed your spirit, all your politics, religion, science, belief systems. Okay, so then when you think about it, energy conversion is just energy conversion. It's just morph whatever into, and it's all good. It's just diversity. It's great. As long as you understand every upside and downside and side by side, then you make your choices and live and let live, and don't harm others, and give people choices. And if you don't like somebody's belief systems or lifestyle, then block and delete. Don't let them trigger you, and protect your culture. But if you are questioning your own culture, then you will always invite controversy to challenge you, because subconsciously, there's credibility in what somebody is saying, and so it's attraction subconsciously, but consciously you're still fighting yourself of change. And so those that follow me but don't like me, their subconscious knows I'm fucking right, but their conscious level is fighting them. Because believe me, I don't follow people that I don't agree with. And I'm not trying to figure out, if what they're saying is correct or not. I already know who I am, and I don't need to be challenged by people who are of opposite, like complete opposite of me. So I just don't follow people that trigger me, that make me feel like horrible for being who I am. And so I just don't even acknowledge. But those that follow me that don't like me, make me, and think that I'm making them feel horrible, they actually are still in question of their own belief system. And that's telling. Okay? And so, yeah. So then I was watching some of the 80s movies, like What About Bob? And the normalization of pathology and normalization of psychiatry and people with issues, tolerance, highly sensitive, obsessive compulsive, And that has a lot of probably medical trauma, pharmaceutical trauma, and any other genetic trauma. And so people just loop and they do stuff and no boundaries. And that was made fun of course, because Bill Murray and that Bob didn't have boundaries with his own doctor. And his own doctor was all, what was he? Neurotic. And I've met psychiatrists. I've never had a psychiatrist, but I've worked for people who had psychiatrists somewhere in the background and met them, and it's a power trip. Psychiatrists, even doctors, any kind of mental health professional or professional, power trip. Power trip. It's, yeah. And so I just like, yeah. And so and it's interesting when I was posting those videos from YouTube about like Canada is dying, America is going through several notches, being taken down several notches. Yeah, Canada was also under major experimentation, and they're going through the same thing that we're going through. A lot of countries in the first world are going through some shit. But it doesn't surprise me that, I'm watching the videos on YouTube about Canada going through the drug issues, the homeless issues, the rising prices in real estate. Yeah, they're going through the same shit. Addicted to drugs, like I said. And so the whole world is going to go through this whole now reconfiguration. And we're all going to be at almost the same level. Okay? We are. And so people in the J world, stop eating kefir. You don't need kefir. You need the cream and you need the fat. The kefir, when you ferment the kefir, those little protein microbes are actually eating the fat and digesting it and turning it into another protein organism. So you're actually like disappearing the fat through the fermentation process. Stop fermenting milk. Okay, and so I actually do not eat the Activia probiotic yogurt anymore. I just stopped. I bought so much of it all the time. I would eat it all the time. Now my body doesn't even want it. Like, I don't even crave it. I have still 2 of the Activia probiotic yogurts that I haven't even touched. And I'm not actively trying to go buy it again. What do I buy now? Just the cream. It's $9 for a half a gallon. So $18 a gallon. It's worth it to me. And I buy milk for my husband because he eats cereal. But I don't need the kefir. I don't need kefir at all. And what prompted that? Because yesterday, Alana Brown, and she's going through her own stuff and she's trying to get through, and she needs to gain the weight. Literally, she needs to gain the weight. But she's doing kefir, whatever you want. I don't know how you want to say it. Okay? And I'm like, and my gut told me that, no, you need the cream. Because I can make my own probiotics. That's the thing, is when I take milk or I eat the cream, my body takes in the fat, the lactose, the lactic acid, the lactobacillus comes from that whole, from that process. The lactic stuff comes from that milk, that cream. So I can produce lactobacillus, and I have the fat on top of that, and it also develops the hormones of vitamin A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. Same I have in the fridge, but don't want it. Last time I had it, I had to force no more of that for me. Good job, Audrey. And so I can just take in the cream, and my body will convert it into a ferment. If it needs to ferment it, it will. And it also has the fat. So Alana Brown needs the fat. Not all the protein. See, she turned that cream into like a soy protein. She's like, but it's so creamy. Well, yeah, no shit. You can get soy, like Cool Whip, which is no dairy in it. I don't even do Cool Whip. I don't need Cool Whip. I get my meat, my milk or cream from the cream. I get my meat from eating a steak or eating pork chops or eating chicken. Or eating pepperoni or whatever, cured meats. But I do not ferment. I don't need to ferment anything. Fermentation is for those who don't have what it takes to break food down. It's like you hiring a surrogate mother to go bear your baby for you. So then you don't train your body, you don't condition your body to break food down and convert it, and you take in all the nutrients. It's like you took away steps when you're taking in fermentation. Fermentation is not poison, but it doesn't allow you to fully use your immune system the way it's meant to. You're supposed to be able to convert that energy to your benefit. But the thing with the J world was that we didn't have enough salt in our diets or in our life. I don't say diet because that is misleading. We didn't have enough of the electrolytes. We were told to only have a certain amount per day based upon, a recommended daily allowance, based upon the FDA and the doctors who told you that you have a lifespan and that you didn't want to feel pain and you had to have a closed system. That's why all the RDAs, the recommended daily allowance, a percentage of this and that, it kind of gave people a certain baseline, but their intention is to have you procreate, have all your families and your culture so they can do experiments and take your DNA and study your family, study your behavior, study your belief system, study how easily it is for you to react, how easy it is to manipulate you. And so when you have people that don't feel anything, right, but they're reacting to their environment, and if you lessen the amount of salt intake, then you see life develop, right? Because you're not trying to release the demons, you're keeping those demons inside. And so when you have someone who's on a low sodium diet, not even on a low sugar, they're still eating their carbs and everything else, but on a low sodium diet and they're eating all their foods, then they are ballooning up. Because the salt and the water electrolytes regulate the growth so it doesn't become too numerous and doesn't become so underdone. Like, because you can salt in and salt out. Salting in, bring together, salt out. It breaks apart. And it's a balance. But when you say across the board, everyone in your family must now be on low sodium diets because they are afraid of the heart, stuff, because they have issues with the lack of reinforcement in their heart muscles and in their blood vessels, then they're like atrophying and they are now the Garden of Eden. And those cultures are being taken from them. The system, the scientists or the doctors are taking their pee, their poo, blood drawn, and it's being sent off to labs all over the place. They're separating proteins, separating this, studying this, and they're developing more therapies and different people. And so you are a fucking science project for those that are in white lab coats. Okay? So you need the fat. That's what's missing. Get away from the kefir. Get away from the kefir. You don't need it. You need the fat. Your body will ferment what it needs to, and it will have the fat. When you take kefir, it has 32% less trans fat, and you need the fat. But you see how the system has made you afraid of fat because of the lack of salt, so your body isn't regulating and releasing, and so then you have all this fat and cholesterol building up. And so they're like, oh God, the trans fat and cholesterol is so bad for you, when actually you need it. That's your adipose tissue. That's your immune system. You build up your immune system from the milk and the cream, not the kefir. You can ferment. Your stomach is like those fucking jars in the J world. You don't need a surrogate mother. You don't need to turn to anything to develop cultures for you. You can develop your own fucking culture in your body. And you also get a complete fatty acid, amino acid, prohormones, and minerals, because there's also amino acids in cream and milk. But when you ferment stuff, sometimes you ferment away the things that you actually need because of how the system has compartmentalized the hormones, calling them vitamin A, B, C, D, E, F, and G. And they said, oh yeah, you're missing this kind of vitamin and missing this thing and missing that mineral and missing this. And so here, just go and, not literally OD, but here, just take a bunch of this all the time. So get off the kefir. Just get away from all the, I mean, after you do a few of the J juice, okay, fine, release demons. But really, when you think about it, you need the cream and the milk. You don't need kefir. You don't need anything fermented anymore. I mean, I don't have anything fermented. I don't eat anything fermented. I don't need to. I do my own fermentation. And so now that is another awareness today. Get away from fermentation. Get away from probiotics. You don't need the probiotics out there. You really don't. You are the life. You are life. And you can develop your own probiotics. You don't need to buy them. You don't need to go and make them yourself, because you can make it in your own body. You don't need to put them in a jar or in something out there making a, what do you call that? A mother. We're just like, oh yeah. Or a SCOBY. You don't need the SCOBY shit. Everything done in the holistic world and the allopathic world has compartmentalized everything and then sold it to you as a product. That, yeah, okay, you know, by itself, it has its benefits. Just like, you know, your heart by itself has its benefits. But really, when you think about it, you have every opportunity, you have every capability to develop your own probiotic inside your gut. Your heart works in conjunction with everything else. By itself, yeah, it has its benefits, but also really it's not effective by itself. When you think about it. I mean, you can study it to understand the components of your heart, but when you think about it, the heart works with everything else. And if you're compartmentalizing even your microbes and weaponizing the herbs and extracts and things out there against your microbes and calling them parasitic, and that you have to take all these anti-parasitics, then you have now weaponized your whole environment against the life in your body, causing you to go into anaphylaxis and then withhold food from you. So because you can't handle the food supply, because you used it as an herb or an extract and weaponized it against your infections, your body's ability to grow. Okay? That was all intentional. That's the depopulation agenda. And that's been beaten into people's heads, bodies, mind, and spirits for years. It's in family cultures. You think somebody out there who's in the holistic world, allopathic world, who is in severe amounts of pain and they don't want to change and they're in their politics, religion, and science, you think they're really going to understand this? No. You leave them the fuck alone. They're only meant to be here temporarily because they have a lot of intolerance, they can't change, and they're in so much pain. So you just leave them alone. But if you have the capacity to understand this, like really have the capacity to understand this, you will surpass even your self's expectations of your intellectual capabilities, physical capabilities. I mean, you will be so fucking amazed by what you could actually do and think up of and create and develop. But it takes work. Okay? And it's also getting away from the holistic world, all the fermentation world. Get away from all that. You don't need it. You are life. You can develop life and you're not afraid to do it. And you have all the mechanisms to develop your own probiotics in your gut. You don't need a surrogate mother. You can do it yourself. And so that's what the fermentation world is surrogacy. They're surrogate mothers. Because they're saying that you don't have the capacity to do it yourself. That's the implied message in fermentation, kefir, fermenting your vegetables, fermenting your fruits, fermenting anything. It's an implied that you do not have the ability to ferment your own microbes to help you. And that's the spells being cast upon you in the holistic world. That's why alchemy in the holistic world is no different than Wiccans, warlocks, wizards, witches, casting spells on you, telling you that you are deficient and you need them. You need surrogate mothers, SCOBY mothers, surrogacy, saying that you are deficient, you're less than, and you need their help. No, you don't. Some of you are too skinny. You cannot afford to keep the fat out of your diet, especially from the cream. So stop fermenting your cream. Stop fermenting everything. That's really the main takeaway today, is stop fermenting your foods. Just stop it. Unless you think of yourself as less than, and that you need surrogate mothers out there to keep burying your proteins for you because you are deficient. And actually, if you're doing that because of that, then you don't need to be in the J world. Fermentation does not belong in the J world. It really doesn't, not anymore. It shows you that salt wasn't poison. It showed you that salt could develop proteins and life could live in salt. Life came from the fucking ocean. But that logic didn't register even 7 years ago. And I had to remind people that we came from the ocean. We came from salty world. Okay? You need salt as the energy. If you didn't have the ocean, you'd have all this growth that would then devour itself. It would cause extinction if you didn't have salt to regulate. Electrolytes regulate the growth so it doesn't become so numerous and destroy you. As you can see, people who are on low sodium diets and they're eating, sugar and carbs because you have to. That's the food supply. But you can't just live on vegetables unless you want to become so skinny and nothing, right? And so when you're on low sodium diets, skinny, obese, there's nothing to regulate the growth or bring together the proteins to give them substance. Because they're afraid of fat. The whole thing with kefir, what the fuck ever you call it. So you have really skinny people and really morbidly obese because they don't have any kind of regulation. They're letting the medical holistic system regulate their 11 different systems. So no wonder people won't get this because they don't have it up here to understand it. And if that's insulting to them, then block and delete me. Don't follow me. Okay? But that's essentially what it is. You lose intelligence when you don't bring in the minerals to regulate and you understand what your body needs to do to bring up the pressure so you can handle energy conversion or release pressure so you don't blow up and be under so much pressure and stress out. So, I'm not going to get into I'm going to delete the Father's Day, the parent stuff, because that's really, I'm just going to not go there. But that's the reason why fathers and mothers and the whole parenting and families, that whole brainwashing that having a family and having kids and all that is the necessity, having a husband, wife, boyfriend, girlfriend, whatever, lover. That's because they want you to have children. They want you to bring together two conflicting cultures and see what kind of evolution came out of it. And they want to see all the different deficiencies. And they want you to shame each other for not following a party line and keep each other in line. Okay? But when you think about it, all you need is the milk and the cream. You don't need to ferment anything. And you are the best copy. You are the parent to all the cells in your body that are going through energy conversions. You can do it all. And you can take in information, intelligence, and you can release the demons. And you had a mom and dad. Maybe they're there. Maybe they weren't. Who knows? Does it really matter? If you are intelligent enough to take in new information and process it to your benefit, it doesn't matter if your mom and dad were there for you or not. It doesn't even matter. It doesn't matter if someone shamed you for not being there for your kid. Because that kid's going to have to figure it out for themselves no matter what. You can't do it for your kid. It's not going to matter if you were there for them or not. If they were given all the basics, food, water, and shelter, and some education, they have it made. Some kids in third world countries don't even have the basics. They barely have the food, barely have the water, definitely don't have the education. So it doesn't matter if your parents were there for you or not. It doesn't matter if someone was there for their kid or not. Their kid will figure it out for themselves, just like you. And if you don't have the intelligence to process new information, it's not going to matter anyways. Somebody's going to have to tell you how to do stuff, and you will find the nearest guru, the nearest authority to tell you when to have a kid, when not to have a kid, when to eat, when to sleep, when to take a remedy, when to have a surgery, when to go and party, when to drive, when not to drive, when to have curfew. If you're not intelligent enough to take any information to your benefit, you will need someone to tell you what to do every step of the way. So it's not going to fucking matter what happened with your parents or what they did or did not do. So then I don't really have to go down that road, because that road I made sure it was negative, because that's what people do out there. But if someone is weak enough to allow people around them to beat them into submission, like intellectually and spiritually and physically, you couldn't help them anyways. They weren't strong enough to just get away from those people and do their own thing. And so it's not going to matter again. It's up to each individual person. If they're strong enough to deal with every single roadblock and other people's opinions, if they're strong enough to deal with it, then they will survive no matter what, and they will be amazing. But if they're not strong enough, they will succumb to other people's opinions. So, so then you don't have to worry. You just be a representation. People get you, great. If they don't get you, fine. But you don't have to have surrogate mothers out there. Whether it's someone you want to follow that you're like, okay, mommy. People call me mommy. I'm like, I'm not your mom, but whatever. I can't say that. I can't tell them anything. But that's the thing, is you can be the one to develop your own probiotics in your gut. You don't need kefir. You don't need anything fermented. You don't even need the chili juice. You need the salt in your foods. You need the milk. You need the cream. You need the proteins, the complete proteins. You need fatty acid, amino acid, prohormones, and minerals. I broke all that down for a reason, because it can come in different forms. But don't let the holistic world compartmentalize what you should be doing on your own. Because that's what the holistic world is no different than the allopathic world. They broke everything down and sold you everything piece by piece. It's like they're selling you hearts and lungs and toes and nails and skin cells to you and say, hey, here, this is going to help you do this and this and that. They're compartmentalizing all your microbes and say, here, we're going to sell you this microbe, we're going to sell you that microbe, we're going to sell you that microbe, and when this microbe gets out of control, we'll sell you this herb and this extract and this energy rife machine and this crystal and this and that to then stop the energy. And that's how they have played your body parts against each other, no different than playing Democrat, Republican, and Christian versus Jewish or Allah or whatever. That was the system of control. That's the Rosicrucians. But they needed to do that to compartmentalize, to understand every fucking component. And then how that gets displayed in the human, who is then now going to project the storms inside or the peace inside. And then they will study. So that's why I'm pretty much open about everything, because I want everyone out there to study me. That's why I don't go into nitty gritty details about stuff, but I'll say, hey, I've got my hormones all under control. And I have new awarenesses as I speak. I'm always checking my communication, checking my belief systems, and discovering new fucking things every goddamn day. Okay? So I want all of you guys to study me. I want all the scientists and authority to study me. I'm transparent. I ain't hiding anything. I want people to give people a chance to figure out if they have it within them to evolve. If they don't have it within them to evolve and they're too far gone, block and delete me and just enjoy your life. And we thank you for your service. We thank you for the offspring you've developed. We thank you for the jobs that you did. We thank you for everything that you did for our society. But this is as far as it's going to go for you. And I'm only just going to piss you off. Okay? So that's why I do what I do, because somebody out there will understand where I'm coming from. And they possibly have the idea, they could possibly do what I'm doing and understand where I'm coming from. But it will be a layer of releasing the programming and developing their own specific, unique programming. They'll be unique to them based on all their experiences and gifts that were given to them, and their culture and their background, and what their government is offering to them. And then they will be amazing at some point, or they're still amazing now, or they'll have something new or not, and they'll just be, part of the overall system. That is, we need all parts of the system. Whatever it is that you can do that's not destroying yourself and other people, but that contributes on some level, whatever it is. And you'll figure it out. Okay, so that's my Happy Memorial Weekend. Is that those died for us to figure this out. They were the human experiments. We thank them for their service. Okay? And so, if someone dies for you, then you better do your best to fucking live on and make their death worth something fucking amazing. Okay? Literally, make their death worth something in your life. Have a good day.